Hi, everyone. We're just going to be just a moment. Our moderator for the panel, he's just reconnecting back into audio. But in the meantime, as we wait, Martin and Jenny, how would you like for us to proceed? We can kick it off and wait for Max to return.
Yes, let's go ahead and kick it off. And for all of our attendees, feel free to ask any questions in the Q&A for our panel this afternoon.
That's great. I think Max is just returning, and we'll just give him a moment, and we can welcome everyone. The joys and the challenges of live virtual. And I think, we're proving that live virtual is definitely a great thing as we all come in and open our homes to one another virtually. But there's obviously the challenges. Max, are you back?
I am. Sorry about that. My iPhone decided to kick me out, which was a new one.
But you made it back.
Everyone can hear me again?
Yes, you sound great.
Okay, great. Well, apologies about that, everyone. Hopefully that 120 seconds won't cost us. And thank you all for joining today. This is the session on innovative cybersecurity workforce development at the 2020 NICE conference. I'm Max Shupton. I am the Cyber Talent Program Director at the SANS Institute. I'll be moderating the panel today as we discuss different topics, techniques, and strategies related to growing the cybersecurity workforce and how organizations can address the ongoing talent shortage and their hiring and workforce development needs. Joining me today are three panelists that it's my pleasure to introduce now. First, Rushmi Hasham, who is the Director of the Rogers Cybersecure Catalyst. Rushmi is a strong advocate for identifying and implementing unique training and employment opportunities to increase the representation of women and career changers in cybersecurity and other technology careers. Rushmi is also an entrepreneur, having founded 2 different businesses in the technology services industry. Next, I'd like to introduce Kelly McCormack-Gonzalez, the Talent Acquisition Manager at Minerva Engineering. Kelly is a native Michigander, now based in Maryland. As the Talent Acquisition Manager at Minerva Engineering, she oversees their support of the DoD and other federal clients in terms of hiring professionals in roles such as technology, IT, and cybersecurity. She's also an aspiring industrial and organizational psychologist in the process of completing her master's at the Chicago School of Professional Psychology. Finally, I'd like to introduce you to Christine Chalmers, our final panelist on the meeting today. Christine is currently the Technical Program Manager for Information Security at PagerDuty, where she oversees programs across compliance, application security, and security operations. She recently graduated from the Women's Immersion Academy to enter the field of cybersecurity with 3 GX certifications and is a member of the GX Advisory Board. Now, all 3 of our panelists will be taking over in just a moment, but cybersecurity workforce development is often thrown out as a buzzword in the field of cybersecurity today. And to kind of parse out what the different panelists will cover, as you heard, they come from different roles. Rushmi oversees training and talent development programs. Kelly oversees talent acquisition and hiring for an employer. And Christine is a day-to-day cybersecurity professional, having recently entered the industry. And the reason we have such a diverse set of panelists in terms of their career roles is because cybersecurity workforce development is a very broad term that within it entails a lot of different components, strategies, and approaches for organizations to successfully have a workforce development program at their organization. It involves things such as new approaches to finding and developing entry-level talent, as well as more advanced professionals and practitioners. It involves current strategies and new strategies for training current professionals, making sure they're engaged and motivated at their daily jobs, and using that to help them help with retention at the organization and help empower individuals to perform their day-to-day roles and the important tasks of keeping businesses and government secure. Finally, we want to hear also from Christine, not just about her day-to-day job, but her journey into the field, because as organizations seek to implement hiring and workforce development strategies, they need to hear from candidates who have made that journey into the field in terms of what works for them in the job search, what positive and negative experiences they have, and what it's like to onboard into a new company in an entry-level role or a more advanced role. So today we'll have each of the panelists speak a bit about their perspective on workforce development, the innovative approaches they've taken, been a part of, and are helping implement. And then we'll open it up for Q&A towards the balance of the time we have with you all here today. Thanks again for joining. And with that, I will turn it over to Rushmi from the Rogers Cybersecure Catalyst.
Thanks, Max. Thank you, everyone. Really great to be here with this great group of individuals that Max and the SANS team have brought together. Great to share this with Kelly and Christine. So the Rogers Cybersecure Catalyst, we are based in Toronto in Canada, and we're part of the university, Ryerson University, set up as a non-for-profit. And our mandate is very clear. We were set up purposely outside of the entire university because we are meant to be creative, disruptive, and innovative in our solutioning in cybersecurity. Specifically, how do we help Canadians to seize the various opportunities that exist in cybersecurity, whether it's employment, the development of new companies through our accelerator, or through R&D. So being set up outside of the university really gave us tremendous momentum to begin a partnership, a unique partnership. And that's how we brought the ability to bring and solve, create solutions by bringing together our industry partners, as well as our academic partners and government partners. I'm going to share a little bit more about those partnerships in a moment, but our mandate was really wide and very open, but the first place that we wanted to address was skills and the skills shortages and the skill deficit that we see right now in Canada with all of our cybersecurity roles that are currently unfulfilled. We have approximately 10,000 roles across the country that are unfilled that say cybersecurity is put in the title. Then we probably have another 20 to 25,000 roles where cybersecurity is a key element of that role. And it could be in operational technology, network technology, and security is embedded. And so those roles are left unfilled. So we have a skills shortage. And our mandate is to be part of the solution. So Max, next slide. Let me tell you quickly a little bit about the Catalyst and really the different elements, and then we'll hone in on our workforce development. So as I said, really broad mandate. How do we go and create these opportunities for Canadians? So we are based on pillars, and our different pillars address different areas of cybersecurity. The first pillar addresses training and certification, workforce development. So how do you pull new individuals into cybersecurity and make them consider cyber as a profession? And also, how do you upskill individuals who are currently in the industry and requiring that they also have their career path set for them as they mature in that profession? The next area is our accelerator, where we support Canadian scale-ups, so businesses that are of growing concern. How do we provide them with support to be able to grow and now become international organizations? We innovate through our cyber range, and which provides, again, ability to train and validate skills. And we have a heavy focus on policy and education and public awareness. And our K through 12 strategy falls under that as well, and our small to medium business strategy. We also work across our academic partners at Ryerson, as well as across our national academic partners as a national center for cybersecurity. So when you bring all of these different pillars and activities together to the hub, the core of what we do is really to find ways to protect and defend the digital realm of all Canadians, specifically focusing on skills and training. Max, next slide. Thank you. So the key areas around our workforce development solution really comes from a place of that attracting individuals. We looked at this and said, where is the greatest impact that we can have very quickly, very short term, to start addressing some of those roles that are currently unfilled? And it wasn't really looking at a 4-year traditional university program path. We started to look at what is accelerated and how do we create a program where individuals are attracted to the programming, but also a program where industry is going to look at the graduates from this program and say, yes, you have the validated skills and knowledge to apply it immediately into the work situation. So we designed a program in collaboration with SANS, a program that really speaks in an accelerated way to the skills that employers are seeking in Canada. And also, how do we attract the individual that we want in the program? And the individual that we target, because I have a fundamental belief that the way to fill the skills gap very quickly is to actually start to look at individuals who come from different careers. So really targeting the mid-career career changer, the person who may have a English degree and could be a teacher who suddenly says, I would like a career change. And how do they translate that particular skill and decode those skills that they brought from their past into with training, and now they can apply it into their new role in cyber. So we started to design these programs to attract that individual. And we have 3 unique streams that are created. So we start to say we recognize that only 20% representation of women in the entire cybersecurity industry. So we wanted to increase that representation. We have a stream just for women, women in cyber, RBC Women in Cyber. We've looked at that new Canadians arriving into Canada, 3 years in Canada, are unable to find and secure the roles from utilizing the training that they've had in the past. And we created a stream that allows for new Canadians to be able to harness new cyber training to create new opportunities for themselves, and a new careers path. And the new careers path is really designed for individuals who have been who've lost their jobs in the past 36 months. And now with COVID, we've seen a high unemployment rate. And those individuals who have the high aptitude and interest are provided with an opportunity and a pathway into a career in cyber. So we're really thrilled with our training program as we rapidly skill. It's a rapid reskilling program. We've been able to, we started in Feb, so we've only started this year. We're 9 months into our training program, and we've graduated 2 full cohorts. To us, that's 120 individuals. And well, we're about to graduate the second group. What I'm amazed to see is that 50% of the qualified grads who currently 12 weeks post-graduation are employed in cybersecurity. Unheard of. I've been in reskilling for a very long time, running similar schools. I have never seen a program this effective. And that goes from the beginning of how we assess our applicants and the assessments that we use, our ability to screen, bring the right individuals through, create a student success program for all individuals, understanding that coming back to school and making this transition is hard, and then the impact at the end with employers who clearly understand that the totality of someone's experiences and past careers and roles added with the cybersecurity training and certifications that we've brought into the program is really what they need And we're starting to see employers coming to us asking to start hiring from our program because it is that unique. So I think that coupled together all of those different elements, we've created a very unique way to address skill shortage and being innovative. We are the first in Canada, and I hope we become a model for other schools and other programs. I'd like to just quickly share with you a story, two stories, if you don't mind, because I just want to prove to everyone that the training program works. And the real joy is at the end of the program when you celebrate someone's success. So Saeed came to Canada, in 2018 with his family, had experience in IT from his home country, but just couldn't secure a role in Canada. He did a lot of survival jobs, driving Uber was one of them. He applied to our program, scored really well on our assessment test, and came through the training program, did his certification through GIAC. So he does have his GSEC and his GCIH, did extremely well, made us very proud. But then when we were able to work with our partner, RBC, and they met Saeed, they were blown away. They could not believe his skills, his ability to communicate effectively about what he had learned through the program and apply it. And they offered Saeed a job with it. They interviewed him on a Tuesday. By Thursday, he had a job offer. And right now he started his first real professional role in Canada. The impact was that we were able to work with our funder, RBC, but the impact is that we lifted Saeed and his family into a new career, into a new pathway. And we helped him to recognize his professional goals through this program. And that is tremendous success that's been felt. And RBC is now looking forward to the next set of hires. Max? And Nadia. I had the pleasure of doing Nadia's interview at the state of when she was applying to the training program. Nadia comes from a program in urban and regional planning from Ryerson University, actually, and she'd left, graduated many years ago from university, could not find a role within what she had studied. And she was working in a fast food, in a restaurant. But she always had this nudge towards technology, a nudge towards wanting to pursue a career in tech. Like she just had this need to be in tech. When she applied to our program, she did well on the assessment, did extremely well on her interview, just came in really well prepared. And then when we accepted her, she blew us away by being one of the top scorers on her GSEC and her GCIH, similar to Christine being invited on the advisory. It's a tough place to be, but she accomplished it. And just upon graduation, Nadia was able to receive a job offer from Rogers Communication, one of our partners. They said that they have never met somebody who comes with no technology background and was able to make this leap, make this commitment, and be able to blow them away in the interview, in a technical interview. And it just, again, proving over and over that rapid reskilling programs, finding an ability to bring all of your talents with you, all of your previous training, and applying it in a different way is what cybersecurity needs. We need diversity. And I think the more that we focus our workforce development solutions towards diversity, the better the industry is, and the better we are for it as a country and frankly, as a world, because the diversity of the problems we are trying to solve requires diversity of thought and diversity of experiences. So we're very fortunate that we have a commitment over the next 5 years with our funders to be able to continue funding the program. I did not mention that this is a funded program. Our applicants, it's one of the most rigorous acceptance processes. We have a ratio of 10 applicants for every seat. And our funding partners fund one of the Canada's most expensive training program, but thanks to them, Rogers, Brampton, Government of Canada and RBC, that we're able to continue this training program because it's a well-recognized need for our country. That's it, Max.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Rushmi. I think, we'll come back to it in a minute. One thing that would be interesting for you to think on before we get to Q&A is maybe expanding on how unique a partnership it is to have the federal government along with local government with Brampton, which is a city outside Toronto, as well as a large telecom and large bank all working together to support this kind of initiative, which is something we don't often see, I think, in these types of programs. But we'll give you a minute to think on that. I'm going to turn it over to Kelly to talk to us a bit about the talent acquisition strategy when it comes to cybersecurity.
Thanks. So Minerva Engineering, we are a service-disabled, veteran-owned small business in Central Maryland. Our primary customers are the Department of Defense. So the types of candidates that we're able to hire are niche in both skill set and coming in with a required clearance. We've partnered with the SANS Institute in the past, specifically to work with transitioning veterans from service to post-service employment. What I've seen over the years is that recruiting has become a lot more personalized. We have different channels that we're leveraging to connect with candidates, both through SANS, through the Transition Assistance Program, but more often than not, through social media. 10 years ago, these trends weren't necessarily as common. They were still sort of in their, I don't want to say infancy, but they weren't as traditional. But speaking both through my personal experience and the candidates that we do end up extending a job offer to, 9 times out of 10, we're meeting folks either through networks, through social media, and through different conference connections. My recommendation is to connect early and often, specifically those who may be on this or viewing this panel thinking, well, I don't transition, until 2021, 2022. It is never too early to make that connection with future employers. The other thing to think about, and I remember being told this in my youth and didn't take it as seriously until I became, a recruiter, was online presence matters, and ensuring that you're both able to display both the professional side and the human side of yourself through your social media accounts and your resume is critical to attracting or deterring a future employer. Next, I've noticed, especially since COVID happened back in March, we've had to rethink the workspace. Obviously, we're all here through Zoom, which is added to our workspace, but due to the environments that that DoD requires for our sensitive programs, we've had to rethink, well, how are we going to be able to employ people while still maintaining social distance and providing PPE, and what protocols are we going to put in place, should someone become infected. So that's become really interesting, working with both our government customer and within our own operational spaces. But what we've come to realize is that the customer has been exceptionally flexible with providing condensed schedules, rotating schedules, and other opportunities to leverage our operating space or expand our operating space in order to accommodate those that require accommodation throughout this pandemic. Next slide. Another thing I wanted to discuss today is resumes. I may date myself here, but another thing that is so important in getting your post-academic or post-service position is having a resume that's developed. Specifically, when I say where's the beef, I'm referring to the old Wendy's commercial, but it's important to be able to develop or demonstrate all of the skills that you may not think are relevant, but could, give added consideration from an employer. Perhaps you run a quarterly capture the flag tournament, or you have a part-time job providing UX research or user testability. All of these things are critical to put in your resume. Being able to not only demonstrate the diversity of your experience, but it also helps in showing that you're able to pivot from one system or one procedure to another quickly. Lastly, when it comes to resumes, since I recently redid mine, I can't emphasize how important spell check, grammar, punctuation are. I know they sound nitpicky, but we've had some instances where we get resumes that come through and we're like, we know this person can technically do the job, but if you're a principal engineer and you're misspelling principal, it gives you a moment of pause where should we be moving forward with this candidate? Is this the attention of detail that we're going to see in future work? So next, I'd also like to discuss certifications and degrees. I think what differentiates public sector work, specifically within the US federal government, is that we're really kind of hooked to our labor category requirements, and asking the government for a waiver is an uphill battle at best. That being said, we've noticed that particularly within DoD in recent years, that the labor categories themselves are now loosening the degree restrictions, which is wonderful, where we're now able to accept candidates that didn't take a collegiate path and just have work experience. But we found that certifications are becoming more important than actually having a college degree, particularly in the area of cybersecurity. Again, I don't know how many veterans are participating here, but there's a specific standard, DoD 8570, that has a matrix of different certifications that will benchmark what the DoD will find acceptable in order to qualify for higher labor categories. SANS Institute certifications being one of them. So if you're weighing the options, well, do I go to school? Do I get certs? Both are helpful in obtaining that next step in your career. However, certifications we can't substitute. Degrees, you can definitely substitute years of experience. So next slide. Lastly, this is more specific to Minerva Engineering. I wanted to talk a little bit about our engagement and motivation of our workforce. Being that we're a small business, I think our differentiator is that we're both employee-centric and mission-focused. The work that we do is critical to national security, protects each one of us every day when we don't even know about it. That's something that differentiated working in DoD and working in the IC from private sector jobs. The satisfaction of knowing that you're part of something bigger than yourself is irreplaceable. But we are an employee-centric and customer-centric organization. One of our guiding principles is that we want to be the company that not only people want to be associated with, but employees want to work for. And we walk the talk, showing up every day and living our principles through our work and through our mission support. In recent months, with the reorganization of our workspaces, we've also applied similar techniques to improving job satisfaction through job design. It wasn't an intended exercise, but due to the shifting around of people to accommodate workspace and social distance, we've also had to rethink how to meet our organizational goals through reprocessing and re-engineering our day-to-day tasks, which has really led to some not only innovation, but mentorship opportunities for younger engineers and younger cybersecurity professionals. In addition, we're a small business, which gives us an opportunity to be able to tailor a total compensation package that's right for the employee. Having come from larger organizations, you're kind of stuck in a one-size-fits-all model when it comes to benefits. What I found attractive is through smalls, we have that flexibility to pivot, to design a comp package that's right for you and your family. Lastly, new skills absolutely equal career advancement, and obtaining certifications ultimately leads to job promotion and higher levels of employment. That's something that we champion in everything that we do at Minerva. So that's all I really have. I just want to say thanks again for inviting me to participate.
Great. Thank you so much, Kelly. And I'm going to shift over now to Christine to tell us a bit about her journey into cybersecurity and the job search experience from the candidate perspective.
Hi. So my background before moving into cybersecurity was actually in special education. And I think when I tell most people that, no one really knows what a special education teacher does. They think we make bulletin boards and I don't know, and pat kids on the head or whatever. So I knew it was going to be a challenge to find an employer who understood which of my special education skills were going to be of value and were going to transfer to a cybersecurity role. And I think because I was expecting it to be difficult, it ended up seeming easier than I initially thought it would be. But part of teaching special education is convincing everyone within a school to follow federal disability rights law. So a lot of compliance work is exactly what I was doing in schools, using influence without any authority to get other portions of the organization to solve compliance issues. Additionally, in special education, we do psychoeducational assessments, which involve a lot of the same sort of analysis and write-up that a vulnerability scan or a pen test involves. So there were a lot of transferable skills, and my challenge was figuring out where in cybersecurity those skills would provide the most value, and then how to translate those on my resume and in conversations so that employers would see the value that I was bringing from a very disparate career background. So after I worked in schools for a while, and then I switched to running my own sort of private practice advocacy and tutoring business. And a lot of what I did there was work with school districts to help them avoid lawsuits from families who felt their students weren't being properly served. And a lot of the conflict resolution skills and solutioning skills that I built there are exactly what I use today. I also found that some of my students really needed some technical tools that no one was building because the marketplace was too small. And so I started trying to figure out, well, how hard would it be to design an app that just like puts all of your homework in one place? And because that was way beyond the skill level that I had at the time, I started asking my friends who were in tech, like, hey, how do you do this thing? And they invited me to hack days. And that was kind of the beginning of figuring out that I had a project, I had a thing that I wanted to make, and that I could only get so far on the goodwill of friends and mentors. So then I started looking for training. You can go to the next slide. They were telling me that I probably wasn't going to find a job just with any regular JavaScript bootcamp. There were so many bootcamp grads, and it was going to be a low-level job. And because the apps that I was interested in designing were targeted at minors and at people with disabilities, where there is a ton of sensitive PII, a lot of my app design questions were really around, okay, so what portion of the database do we need to encrypt, and how secure is WordPress? And I knew that I had an interest in building something that was more secure than I was going to get out of just a normal boot camp. So I started looking to see, are there any security boot camps? And I was just Googling when I found the SANS Cyber Talent Academy. And I was like, well, this looks ideal. Has anyone heard of this? And all you have to do is take a test. And I sort of thought, well, I'm good at tests. I can do puzzles, because the thing that I found online made it sound like you don't actually have to know any technology. You just have to like understand puzzles. So I went into taking it thinking it was just going to be, colors and numbers or something. And instead, like, the first question was, how do you troubleshoot this remote desktop issue? So there were challenges along the way where I thought, oh, I don't know if I have anywhere near enough knowledge or experience to be able to do this. But I went to a conference called Day of Security, and I had already studied for one test and went to that and was surprised to discover that I already knew most of what they were talking about in the compliance vertical of that conference. And so I started asking friends if they could hook me up with their friends for informational interviews, because sort of my first task was just honing my resume to use tech language and cybersecurity language to translate my experience. And those informational interviews led to other informational interviews, and those informational interviews led to referrals into jobs. So that would be my number one recommendation for anyone on here who's looking for a job is it's not just writing a bunch of resumes and sending them out. It's having conversations with people. So then studying for certification exams, I've spent decades teaching people how to study for tests. So I feel like this was maybe more familiar territory for me than others, but it's just, there's no magic, and there's nothing about cybersecurity that makes it rocket science. The material is all there. You have videos, you have books, you read the material, you figure out whether or not you understand it, and then you study some more of the parts that you don't. So that part was just, if you're the sort of person who can set a schedule and say, this is how much I'm going to go through each day, then this program is very doable. It's just a matter, all of the information that you need to know is laid out from the beginning, and you have it all available to you. It's just a matter of mastering the material. Next slide. So in terms of the job hunt, like I said, I started off trying to get into informational interviews and honing my resume, and each job that I applied to gave me more keywords to put into my resume and more tech language to frame what I had been doing. I felt silly putting a WordPress blog on my resume that was about, it was about books that are most effective at helping kindergartners learn to read, because there's sophisticated leveling algorithms that work really well when you have longer books, but books for kindergartners are often like 50 or 100 words, and there isn't enough data for the algorithm to be very accurate. But it's an important piece of information if you're trying to teach someone who's just starting to read. So I was like, well, I'll start with a WordPress blog, and I will just list these books on pages of a WordPress blog. That felt like a ridiculous thing to put on a cybersecurity job application. But in interviews, I got questions about, what did you learn from that? And I could explain, well, here are the things that I learned about WordPress platform vulnerabilities. And here's what I learned about database normalization as I figured out whether or not I could use the built-in WordPress database, or if I needed to make a MongoDB backend for something. So no matter what your experience is, no matter what your project is, put it on your resume. People are impressed that you are using your skills for anything that you come up with, anything that shows that you've taken the initiative to figure out a novel problem. Next, I would say getting referrals. I had a friend who posted on LinkedIn that he had someone with tons of program management experience who had just gone to day of security and finished this online JavaScript bootcamp, and is anybody looking for a program manager? And I started getting calls from people for jobs that were not a fit at all, jobs that weren't even security related. But every one of those interviews, every one of those conversations is an opportunity for you to refine your pitch about what you bring to a cybersecurity role. So I was excited just to be having conversations with people. I definitely had conversations where people said things like, I don't think I have your correct resume. Can you send me something updated? This has like a bunch of education stuff on it. And I'd be like, thank you for your time. That is the correct resume. It sounds like the project you're working on is about this and that. But what I kept telling myself was that as long as I keep building these skills, sooner or later, someone's going to find them valuable enough to pay me for them. And I don't know which job exactly it's going to be or how fast I'll get in, but I had given myself mentally a year, and I said, like, I'm just going to keep building the next skill. So after each informational interview where I would come away and someone would say, oh, well, if you want to do program management, you really need to know Jira. Nobody likes it. It's a pain point for everyone. And if you can solve that problem, that's a big win. Even though it's not the sort of technical cybersecurity information that people are looking for, those informational interviews gave me ideas about pain points for hirers. And so I just kept picking one more thing and one more thing to get a certification in, figuring sooner or later it would result in something. And it did. So I got admitted to the SANS cybersecurity program, and like a week later, started my job at, or was hired for my job at PagerDuty. So yeah, I think the total length of time between someone saying, I don't think I have the correct resume, and me getting an offer letter for PagerDuty was maybe like 6 weeks. So yeah, if you run into people who don't recognize what value your background provides, you just move on to the next conversation. Next slide. So then what do I do now? I'm a technical program manager, so I manage programs. Right now, my focus is on our vendor risk program, our vulnerability patching, rolling out new tools, and strengthening some of our SOC 2 controls. So those span compliance and application security and operations security. It's a lot of talking to other teams within the organization and coordinating roadmaps and trying to figure out what information people need to be able to complete the asks we have of them. It's a lot of Slack and meetings and doing queries in our log management tool and moving those into spreadsheets to make tickets. So it's program management, but it's what I like. So yeah, I'm thrilled to be doing that in cybersecurity now. Do we have Q&A next? I don't want to take all the time.
Yeah, thank you so much, Christine. It's really great to hear your perspective from coming from a totally non-cybersecurity background and right into the field in 6 weeks. That is amazing. So we are at about 13 after, about 42 minutes in, though my own technical glitch cost us 2 minutes at the beginning, so I'm going to try to push us over 2 minutes. I wanted to open it up for Q&A right now. While the audience types question, I did want to pose a question to the three of you as we see questions come in, and see, in your different roles around workforce development, hiring and talent acquisition, and performing security operations, what have you seen as best practices for ensuring equity and inclusion in cybersecurity? That's something I think a few of you alluded to in your remarks in terms of having a more diverse workforce, bringing more diversity in the field, and especially in a virtual world due to COVID. What have you either seen your company do or organizations you work with do to ensure inclusivity for all employees in terms of keeping them engaged as they perform their cybersecurity tasks?
I can start. We're hiring right now, and one of the things we do is we don't have years required on any of our job postings, and that brings in a broader array of candidates, and certainly more women are interested in applying to those job positions. So that's the first one.
For us, we've not only started looking at some of our billable programs and opening the possibility to making them part-time, but in addition, we that train just left the station. I had something else to say and it's gone. You know what, I'm just going to stick with that. I'm sorry. That's
No, all good. Rushmi, anything you'd like to add?
I am, because you did ask me about the partnerships, and that's really where the diversity piece comes in for us. You know, for the Catalyst, it was building these unique partnerships between industry, academia, and government, and all layers of government, and with the focus of increasing diversity into the program, but also ensuring that the employers understood what diversity in cyber means. And it is bringing in individuals who did not take a traditional path in education, did not take a traditional path in their careers, but also those who come from different diversity of culture, diversity of lifestyle, and how does that play out in our realm of cybersecurity? So for us, the constructs of our partnerships and employer partnerships really drive the values for us, with diversity and inclusion being top of mind all the time, because our partners demand it. We then implement it, and then we see it, you know, rolling out as part of the culture now.
Great, thank you. One other question I had, and this is probably for all three, but Kelly, I'd pose it to you first, is, you know, as we've seen hiring practices at least adjust a bit, or maybe timelines change due to COVID, what would you say to other employers in terms of how to maybe adjust their standard traditional hiring practices to reach more candidates? And what would you say to candidates to understand that, you know, employers' timelines and approaches might be changing in terms of the hiring process?
I'll start with the employer approach. Something I advocate for regularly at work is, you know, we have a diverse employee body, and sometimes looking at someone that has the motivation and the drive, but is 60% of the, you know, the requirements, is worth working with, because you're going to develop that person who's, you know, coming in with a different perspective than someone who's been in this environment for 20 years. When it comes to candidates, it's something one of my friends had said to me when I first was breaking into the IC, and because I didn't have IC experience specifically, I would get rejected. Well, you need to have intelligence community, et cetera, et cetera. Continue to interview. I would walk away thinking this was the only job I've ever interviewed for, and it's the only one that I'll ever want. It's not the beggar's bowl. There are a ton of employers that are wanting your skills. Just continue to interview and continue the conversation.
Christine, anything you've seen your company do differently during COVID in terms of hiring and trying to reach additional candidates?
We do a lot looking for referrals, and looking for people who we might meet at a meetup, and that's harder in COVID. So I would say reaching out over LinkedIn, going to virtual meetups is still a worthwhile way to like, if someone reached out to me and said, hey, I went to this meetup that I know you went to the other day, would you want to have like a 20-minute Zoom to chat about what that's like in your position in the industry, and informational interview like that? That's sort of where we're, that stands out to us in looking for employees. The other thing I would say for employers is we recognize that a lot of security work is actually behavior change. And so we do look for people with a background in psychology or social sciences, people who've probably worked in what are more female-dominated fields, because we know that those behavior change skills are going to be a key part of making a security strategy.
Thank you. And Rushmi, so your program is part of a workforce development strategy, I would think, that multiple companies are embedded within. As COVID, you know, changed their operations, changed their workforce development strategy, how did you see those organizations shift change practices and work with you to make adjustments?
I think early on, in between March through almost August, it was quiet on the employer front. It was really quiet. People were reassessing their planning, they were unsure. And now what we're seeing is there's the resurgence again. Cybersecurity is needed no matter what. We just needed to take a pause to figure out what the landscape was going to look like. So companies that were hiring literally took a pause and they reassessed, they replanned, and now they've come back full force. The hiring is on. And the hits over COVID have definitely been, a lot more as we see the breaches. So we're seeing re-engagement, employers doing virtual recruitment sessions. So we're seeing that it's going back up. The trajectory of employers returning is good for all of us.
Absolutely. Well, I know we're about 6 minutes over time now, so I think I made up, or hopefully made up, for the 2 minutes I lost at the outset. But thank all three of you again for participating today. I thought it was really interesting to get your different perspectives on workforce development and cybersecurity. And thanks to everyone for attending the conference and the NICE planning committee for hosting this panel.
Thank you, everyone. Great seeing you.
Bye.
Bye.